Do you ever feel alone trying to start your private practice as a Christian in the field of mental health? When I first started my practice, I felt completely lost. I knew that God had called me to do this work, and I knew in my heart that I wanted a private practice, but I had no idea what to do or what that even looked like. I didn't have much strategy with networking or marketing. I just prayed and hoped that people would refer to me and that clients would call. I was willing to accept pretty much anyone into my practice because I didn't know how to speak to those and attract those that I would help best. I didn't have much knowledge of how to run a business, even from a financial, practical standpoint. I would have loved to have a mentor who had done it before come alongside me and show me the direct steps. 10 years later, I feel so blessed to have grown my private practice, having even moved across three different states where I've been able to take clients with me and rebuild in every new city. And I love being able to provide encouragement and support to other Christians who are wanting their own private practice and need some help and direction in how to get to where they want to be. So if that's you, I'm so glad that you found the podcast. I offer lots of free knowledge and information in my podcast episodes. I also do offer one-on-one private practice coaching sessions. So if you need just a little bit more personal face-to-face interaction so you know what to do with your private practice, I would love to help you. You can book through visiting my website, www.kimberlyvanhooser.com, or use the link in the show description below. Hey, Christian therapist, are you craving a counseling career that aligns with your faith and actually supports your well-being? Welcome to the Prosperous Christian Therapist Podcast. I'm Kimberly Van Hooser, Christian therapist, private practice owner, and business coach for mental health professionals like you. In this podcast, you'll get practical strategies and faith-led guidance to help you build a thriving private practice, one that serves your clients well and makes an impact for the kingdom of God. So what are you waiting for? Grab your notebook and join me for today's episode. Welcome to today's episode on the Prosperous Christian Therapist Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Van Hooser. And today I am very excited to have a special guest with us on the podcast. Dena is a digital marketing expert. She works specifically with therapists, and she's also a believer. And God has put it on her heart this year to reach out and help Christian therapists get their messaging across on their website so that the doors are open for those who are in need of Christian therapy to be able to find it. So I'm so excited that you're here with me today. Thank you for joining us for this special conversation with Dena Farash. Well, today I have the privilege of interviewing Dena Farash. She is a digital marketer and the founder of Dena Does Digital. Thank you for joining me today, Dena. How are you?
I'm great, Kimberly. Thank you so much for having me.
I would love to have you tell us just a little bit about yourself and share with our audience so they know who they're talking to.
Awesome. Well, thank you for this opportunity. As you shared, my name is Dena Farash. I run a small digital marketing agency called Dena Does Digital, where I help therapists and coaches create their digital presence from website, SEO, course creation, and consulting, all of the things in between. My job is to allow you to work in your business, and I work in the back end for you.
What part of the country do you live in?
I live in New Jersey. I'm an East Coast girl, and I know you can't see me, but I sit here with big hoop earrings 90% of the time. I talk fast, I talk directly, but I come from the heart because at the end of the day, therapists especially are doing the work to help people with their struggle and their suffering. And so my job is to help you do your work and be found online.
That's awesome. And just for fun, can you tell us what you like to do for fun? What's a fun hobby for you?
I am a big time gym goer. I was trained in powerlifting. So being very strong is very important to me all of the time. My kids have been in the gym with me since they're 6 weeks old, but going to the gym is probably on the top three most important things I do in my life.
Wow. What's like the most you've ever lifted before?
So I'm 42 years old right now, and I have a 315 pound deadlift.
Oh my gosh, that is very impressive.
Yeah.
Wow. Cool. Thank you for sharing that. And then you mentioned kids. How many kids do you have? I'm just curious.
I have three children, 11, 10, and 6.
Oh, very fun. Great. Well, I know you shared a little bit about your business, but if you want to just tell us a little bit, how did you get started in digital marketing? And then how did you choose therapists as your target audience?
It's a really interesting question. So I got started in the digital space on accident. I've been here online for a little over a decade. My kids really were the precipice that got me online. My oldest two children are 18 months apart. I had a very difficult time adjusting to being a parent of two kids, and I was angry and I was losing my mind and I was resentful of my husband. And I spent a lot of my days really just not understanding the blessings that I was given, right? This beautiful, healthy family, a husband who's giving me the opportunity to work with flexibility so that I could stay home and be with my kids. And I just knew that there was more to how I was living as a mom. And really on a whim, I just started a Facebook group, and I was able to connect with other moms who were like me, who knew that there were other resources out there to feel calmer, to feel more connected, to be more aware of our blessings around us. And I grew that group to a few thousand women, really just showing up authentically and sharing. And that group allowed me to kind of dive into the digital space, to host in-person workshops, to create courses, and to create a website. And at that time, a brand that allowed me to reach out and to have some type of touch point in other women's lives. So my time in the digital space really happened on accident. But even then, I was doing a lot of networking, even though I didn't realize I was. And I was bringing a lot of therapists into my group as resources for these moms. And so some of these therapists who lived local to my area would come to my in-person events, and I would have 60 to 80 women there. It was really a wonderful thing. And they were like, Dena, can you show us how to do what you're doing? And I never really thought of transitioning in that way, but after COVID, I was not comfortable telling other moms what to do. That was not my area of expertise. I didn't want to show up in this group anymore. We homeschooled our kids. I wanted to give the best of what I had to my children at that time. And so I was able to transition and work in other people's back end of their business. And therapists, especially the therapists in my area that knew me, that I had introduced to my audience, just asked me to take what I had done and do it for them.
Can you tell me a little bit like what kind of services do you offer? So if someone were to get in contact with you, what is it that they're usually looking for and how do you help them?
My number one and number two services are website design, SEO, and blogging. So I say blogging as part of SEO because blogging is a tremendous piece of SEO, but those are the top two things that I'm doing 90% of the time. But I do a lot of consulting for the digital space, whether it's social media. I don't do social media, but I do a lot of consulting on how to show up, on how to be found, and lead magnets, which are getting people in your email list, and courses. I have a number of therapists who have wanted to develop courses. So I work with them to flush it out. And then I do all of the back end, from creating their sales pages, making their courses live, creating it so it's an easy flow for their user to get into their course, and do all the back end tech work for that.
Okay. And then do you have platforms that you recommend to people or are there ones that you prefer to work with? Tell us about that.
There are so many platforms out there, and that alone can be very overwhelming, where to start and what to choose. I primarily build websites in both Wix and Squarespace. And the number one reason those are the platforms I build in is because they're user friendly. So my goal is to give you ownership of your website, to help you feel confident if you ever wanted to make a change, to go in there and do that. And I find that the back ends of both Wix and Squarespace are not as clunky and overwhelming as some of these other platforms, and give you the opportunity as the therapist or the business owner to then go in and to feel confident to make small changes if you need to.
That's great because I know I've had coaching clients who have paid people thousands of dollars to build a website for them, and then they have no idea how to make changes as their practice shifts, and they don't really have a resource to reach out to and say, hey, like I just need you to update my contact information or update this blog page. So I think it's really important to know as a therapist how to make those changes. But I love having like that blend of autonomy for the therapist and the website owner, but also having you as a resource.
Yeah, and I will share some of these website developers, they make people pay a monthly retainer, right? So I will make changes for you if you pay me this much every month. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not how I work. For me, it's a one-time fee. And if you want to continue to come back and work together, then I'm always honored to do that. But I'd rather empower you to make these changes yourself, to feel confident to go in and use these systems, because tech can be overwhelming. Websites can be overwhelming, and there's a way to make it more gentle, where it brings more clients to you with ease, without it feeling like a headache and you have to jump through all these hurdles to shift.
What would you say, like when a therapist is brand new, they're starting their private practice, they don't have a website at all. What would you recommend? Like, what do they really need on their website?
The first thing they need before they even get to a website is to understand who their target market is, right? And so the way, and I share this with people all the time, I do not create sterile, clinical feeling websites. I create professional feeling websites, but more importantly, I create websites that reach your target audience, right? And so before you even want to think about getting started, putting yourself online, you have to really understand who your person is and what they're experiencing. Once you understand that, and you can really just make a list of things that you're here, and it's not as complicated as people may make it seem. It's really just thinking about what are you hearing constantly in session from people, because chances are you're hearing the same phrases or the same words time and time again. You understand the person that you love to work with, right? And in many ways, and I say this to therapists a lot too, in many ways you are your own ideal client, so you can reflect on your own lived experiences to really understand who you are here to be of service to and help, right? There's a reason why we all go through our own suffering and our struggle, right? God has a purpose for it, and it's to help allow us to help other people. My journey is similar, right? But different, because I'm not a clinician. And so before you even think about doing anything in the digital space, have a really firm grasp on who you are doing it for and why you're doing it. And then you can move forward. When you think about a website, some of the things that stick out to me as the most important things to have are easy call to actions, right? Buttons that allow people to call you with ease, letting people know the next steps to take without them having to click off to a million pages. But even more granular than that, more important than that, is your website needs to make an emotional connection to your person, to your target audience. And in the digital space, you have about 2 seconds or less to do that, which means your first two sentences on your website need to let your ideal client know that they are in the right place and that you are the right person to help them with their suffering.
So I know that is a big question that I'll ask my coaching clients too, is who do you want to work with? And sometimes that's hard for clinicians to come up with an idea like this is how to describe it and keep it short and succinct. They have a knowing, but they don't know how to put it into words. So that's something I do help with in private practice coaching calls. Dina, is that something that you help your clients with as well too? If they reach out to you and say, hey, I want a website, and then you're like, well, who do you want to work with? And they don't know, is that something you can assist with?
In many ways, I do. And thank you for asking that question, because I come in really as a strategic partner when it comes in website, where I am also writing the copy for you. And so part of working together is doing a target market deep dive where we spend a solid 45 minutes, hour long in conversation and dialogue so that I can understand who your person is, what they're saying from a development and SEO standpoint. I can understand what they are Googling at night, because I want to write your copy and your website in a way that reaches that person. And again, they have less than 2 seconds to come to your website to feel seen, supported, and to know without a doubt that you are the expert, you are the right person to help them through what they're experiencing in life.
When people are searching, it's just like they look at a page and do they stay on it or do they click off of it? And so that's so important to really hook people in that quickly. And I just had a prospective client phone call this morning. It was someone who was like, this is my ideal client and it's great. And they already knew that I don't take insurance and how much I charge and all of this stuff. And they're like ready to book with me. And that felt so nice. And I think sometimes there's new clinicians who just want as many calls as possible. And I was like, that's actually not, that shouldn't be our goal. Our goal should be as many calls as possible for the right type of client. And so our website can actually act as a filter that filters out and turns away the people that aren't going to be great fits for us, that we don't really thrive in working with, and drawing in our ideal client.
Yeah, I love that you use that word filter. So in the digital space, I say pre-qualifying people, but filter is exactly what it's doing, right? And a good website and good digital marketing presence in general lets people know all of their unanswered questions, right? In a gentle and effective way, so that you're not wasting your time and energy, and neither are they.
So I know you and I got connected because I have a Facebook group. I'm pretty sure you joined my Facebook group for how to start and grow a private practice as a Christian therapist. And then you actually emailed me just a couple of weeks ago, just to connect. And I was so appreciative of that. But can you tell me a little bit about why, like Christian therapist building private practice, why that was something that drew you in to connect?
It's really in my heart this year to help more people who are kingdom people, who to help them and support their businesses. I think when it comes to therapy in general, I think there's a certain level of Christian clients who are scared to go to therapy because they feel they might be judged for their beliefs. I don't think this is talked about enough either in the world because it's not a popular statement and we're not the loudest people in the room at times. But I think when it comes to Christians in general, there's this stigma with therapy or therapists. And I think it's so important for Christian therapists to stand firmly in who they are and their faith and what they believe so that they can really help kingdom people feel better and live a life where they're thriving, where they can be generous, where they can see God in all that they do. Even if it's not always in your sessions out loud, God is always in the room. And so for me, I just want to be able to help Christian therapists get more clients so that they can be of service and help people work through the noise of the world right now.
That's so good. Well, I think that's a big fear I hear from a lot of people are like, I'm Christian and I'm a therapist, but I don't want to just market Christian counseling because what if people don't like that? What if I lose my license? And I think we need to have that courage when we're feeling called to market as a Christian therapist. And I've had so many clients say, I'm so glad that you said you were a Christian counselor because that's something that's so important to me. And I've had people say, like, I didn't know that you could go to a Christian therapist. I didn't know they existed. And so there's such a huge need there. And when we're able to show up and fill that void, that is something that's such a blessing. And I think you're such a blessing, Dina, because I think those scared Christian therapists, if they want to build a website, having someone who's building that website who also is in alignment with that mission and with their values is going to feel a lot safer. So I
Well,
love that
thank
God
you.
put that on your heart and that you took time to reach out. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's really important to talk about the flip side of that, especially as somebody in the mental health field, because your energy and your time is such a resource, right? And if you're sitting with clients, and not that all of your clients need to be aligned with all of your values, that's impossible. But if you're sitting with clients who are on the complete opposite side of where your value standpoint is, it's emotionally draining. And then you're not feeling fulfilled as a therapist and a clinician, right? And so I want to what I think what you're doing is so important because you're helping people with the courage and bravery to stand firmly in who they are and what they believe. But it's also just an invitation to remember why you wanted to be a clinician and to be with people that help fuel you as a professional and not drain you all the time.
Yeah, that is so important. Yesterday I had a full day of clients and they're all clients that just like they fit so well. And I always, even if I'm tired at the end of the day, it's not like a burnout, exhaustion tired. It's like, wow, like I had a really good workout or a good day's work, like that type of feeling where it's fulfilling and
Yeah.
you can then just relax. So you know you did good work that day. And it feels so much different. Like sometimes no matter how good you are at like marketing or your niche or trying to take on the right clients, sometimes you have ones that are just a little bit more challenging. And sometimes when I have too many of those in one day, it's like, oh, I feel so exhausted right now, like in a almost defeating way. And so I'm trying to learn how do I shift that where I'm cognizant of who actually fills me up and lights me up. And I think too often there's therapists who just out of compassion in some ways, like, oh, I just everyone needs help, so I'm going to help them, but it's not necessarily good for them as a clinician. And then that leads to that burnout and exhaustion. It's not good for the client either. If you have someone who's like not loving working with you. Yeah,
I
more of
can't speak from the clinical side of that, but I fully agree with you. Sometimes it's out of compassion, sometimes it's out of desperation. Like I
yes,
need another client, I'm in
yes.
these Facebook groups and everybody has their weeks filled. What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And it's really your heart is in a good place perhaps, but you're maybe not having enough faith that the right people will come to you and that your books will be filled and that your income will be where it deserves to be.
Yeah, yeah. And whenever we make choices out of desperation, they're usually not good for us. They're not healthy for us. I was even thinking the other day, like when I'm starving, I'm gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna take whatever's in the cupboard. I don't care, even though like 2 seconds before I'm like, I'm gonna be really healthy today. And so we need to make sure as clinicians, we're taking care of ourselves so we're not taking people on from that place of desperation. And that can be hard to do when it looks like, oh, I'm lacking. I don't have enough people in my time slots. But we have to ask ourselves, like, am I taking this person on because it's actually good for them and good for me? Or is this out of fear?
Yeah, it's a great distinction.
So if someone were interested and they needed to get in touch with you, what would be like the next steps for them?
So they can book a call with me where we can get to know one another. We could talk about a website. My website is denadoesdigital.com, and Dena is Dena, or you are welcome to send me an email at hello@denafarash.com.
Yeah, so Dina, what else would you like our listeners to know? What else would you like to share with Christian clinicians who might need help in the digital marketing space? Share with us your
Well,
knowledge.
thank you for this opportunity because as somebody who works with therapists in the digital space, there are some things that I share with them all the time. The first is be a person, prioritize being a person over being a professional, especially in what you write and share online. So, whether that's your website, your social media, your Psychology Today, being a person will touch the hearts of people. Everything in the digital space, all decisions made in the digital space are emotional. And so, we want to make sure that people see us not only as a professional and an authority as and an expert. That is very important too, but that's not translated through constant clinical jargon. If your ideal client doesn't actually know what DBT and IFS are, they don't understand these modalities, it doesn't help you bring more clients if you're sitting there sharing all about your modalities and how they help. They might need those modalities and you might know that as an expert, right? But your client doesn't understand that. They just want to know that you're the right person to help them, if that makes sense. Now, that being said, there are some modalities that are buzzwords right now, EMDR, that people are specifically looking for. So you have to be really intentional about what you're sharing. But overall, when it comes to the digital space, prioritize being a person over being a professional. And that's what people are going to be attracted to. The second thing I share with therapists all the time, and this kind of goes along with it, and I'm from New Jersey, so I'm just going to be very direct with how I say it, but that is nobody cares where you went to college. Perhaps your other therapists do, but never in the history of a client coming to you did they come to you because of where you got your master's or your doctorate or where you went to undergrad school. Therapists love to lead with that, and understandably, you've worked so hard for your degrees, but your clients don't care. And so I really filter that under the being a person over a professional. So for example, if you are somebody that in your target market is working with moms, let them know that you're a parent. If you are somebody and your target market is untangling religious trauma, let your people know that that was a lived experience for you too. And there's a way to share ethically while still, and I mean this, positioning yourself as an authority and an expert in what you do, but touching the heart points of people so that they feel safe and they're willing to take those next steps. Does that make sense?
That does. That is so good. I have my schooling that, oh, I went to Pepperdine University under my About Me. And the only time that people have commented on that is if they also went to Pepperdine or had a personal connection. So it's less about the education and it's more about the personal connection of relatable. I love that school. So I think that's so much more important to focus on how do I personally connect. Yeah, that's wonderful. And then I also do see so many therapists who are writing their website to speak to other therapists pretty much. I'm like,
Yes.
okay, there's some people who have therapists are actually their niche client they're looking for. So that might be a little bit more relevant, but it's this very like professional, cold sounding jargon of like, I am trained in ACT and blah, 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 and all this. I'm like, no one knows what that is. Most
Right.
people do not know, they don't understand. So they don't care as much. They want to know that you can help them with their personal real life issue. How's your client thinking in their head? They're not waking up like, I have 10 years of unprocessed trauma and grief. Like, that's not what they're thinking. So what are the actual words that are going to resonate with them? So,
A
yeah,
hundred
I love
percent.
your
I couldn't
experience.
agree more. And just to add to that, sorry to interrupt. Just to add to that, what's happening right now is that at least what I see with people who are starting off in private practice, they're like, well, I treat anxiety and depression or trauma. Guess what? Everybody has anxiety, depression, and trauma in some way. So those
Yeah.
words aren't resonating with people either. You have to be willing to understand your target market on a more
Yeah.
granular level, to go
Yeah.
to Psychology Today or to start a social media page or a website and just say, we help you with anxiety and depression. What happens is, not that you might be great at what you do, but what happens is people get distracted, right? We're all so used to scrolling and we're also used to seeing what's next, who else is out there. So if you're not making that emotional connection in that first instant, people are getting distracted. They want to see what else is out there. That's why they're not taking action. You could be the best therapist in the world. You're just not speaking to them in a way that touches their heart.
Oh, one other question I wanted to make sure I ask, because I see a lot of clinicians who don't even know that they need to include anything like this on their website. But do you help people at all? Can you kind of direct or give guidance regarding terms and conditions and like legal stuff that they have on their website?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are some forms that you have to legally have as a clinician. And there are some forms, there are some pages on your website that you just legally have to have, really, and that's an international law. So terms and conditions, disclaimer. I think what's really important for therapists to include is that coming to the website does not constitute as a professional relationship, right? So you always want to think about worst case scenario, unfortunately, but that's why we have these legal disclaimers on there. You always want to make sure that that these pages are in the footer of your website. They don't need to be on your menu, taking up precious space at the top, but they should be there. And you want to check in with your state regulations and where you're licensed for what else needs to be there. I know in New Jersey, for me, a good faith estimate does not legally need to be on a person's website. However, many clinicians like to have it, and so we include it. But there are certain things that do legally need to be on there. There's also a HIPAA compliance piece, especially if you're doing virtual therapy, that needs to be on there, letting people know that you're going to be sending them to a third-party platform to do video calls. So all of those things need to be included. And when we work together, I do include those pieces for you.
A question with that with the telehealth. So is that's something that's required on a website, even if you set them up virtually and they sign consent forms on their end, knowing like we're going to be using this telehealth platform?
Always speak to your lawyer. However, yes, and all of the research that I've done, without a doubt, you want to have some type of private policy disclosure on there for you, including that that you're going to be doing therapy virtually.
That's great. And I know just for the listeners as well too, I know sometimes there's a lot of fear surrounding legally. I want to make sure I'm doing everything right. And I think that can hold people back a lot of times because they either figure out like this feels too complicated, so I'm not even gonna, do it, or I don't have enough money, so I can't pursue this right now. So don't let it stop you. Just do your best practice, do some light research and consult, and then go from there and trust that God's going to protect your practice, but also we don't want to be ignoring things when we know that there's some legal obligations as well. So
And I will share, if I can share a resource. So listen, you can always use AI. There's some beauty to AI without a doubt, but there is a website called Termly. I believe it's termly.io. Then when you just type in exactly what you do and the states you're operating in, they will bump out some terms and conditions for you. And I think it's like nominal. I mean, you're probably looking less than $50 to have this website created for you.
that's great. Thank you. I'll go ahead. I'll look that up. I'll leave that in the show description below so people can get connected with Termly. Wonderful. Dina, is there anything else that we've left out that is on your heart to share with our listeners?
I think what clinicians do is a wonderful thing. I think it's without a doubt a vocation that's guided by God, because you're here to hold space for people and to help them process their lives and to be more joy filled and vibrant. And so do it proudly, do it boldly, reach out to people like Kimberly that can help you do it without burnout so that you set up your businesses with success. And remember that you're here for a reason. It's not just to be a clinician, you're a person first. As long as you position yourself in the online space to show that in an ethically way, the right people will come to you with ease.
Well, it was something that was coming to mind as you were sharing that as well too, is just the beauty of being able to refer out things that we try to do ourselves, but just bring in other professionals who are good at it. So I know a lot of times when we're first building private practice, and for myself, I was living paycheck to paycheck. I didn't feel like I had any extra resources. So I'm very good at DIYing everything. But that can sometimes take longer. Whereas if you have the ability to invest, it brings in that much more a return on investment a lot quicker. So I think there's so much wisdom sometimes, like let the professionals handle what they're best at. Don't be afraid to refer out and use Dena as a resource. I get a lot of questions about from my coaching clients, even like how to help with their website or their copy, and I can help speak to that. But I also love having Dena now, this connection as a resource to be able to tell people, hey, she does it way better. Go to her. She'll fix it for you faster. So thank you so much just for showing up and being here. Tell me again, I think I asked you this earlier, but tell me again, what's the best way for people to get into contact with you if they're wanting to learn more?
Absolutely. You can visit my website, which is denadoesdigital.com. It's DENA, or send me an email directly at hello@denafarash.com.
Awesome. And I will leave all her contact info in the description below so you can get a hold of her. If you found value in today's episode, would you leave a written review on Apple Podcasts? It helps other faith-led clinicians like you find the show. And don't forget to join my free Facebook community, Start and Grow Your Private Practice as a Christian Therapist, where you'll join other clinicians for encouragement, accountability, and free tips and support. See you there.